When disciples and people were waiting for Buddha for discourse, they were amazed to see that he had brought something with him. On closer look, they saw that he had brought a rope in his hand. Buddha took a seat, and without saying anything to anyone, he started tying knots in the rope. After tying the knots, Buddha asked everyone, "I have tied 3 knots in this rope. Now I want to know from you whether this is the same rope which was before knots or not." One of the disciples replied, "This is a bit difficult to answer. It nearly depends on the way we look. From one point of view, the rope is the same. It has not changed. In another way, now it has 3 knots that were not there before, can be called a change. But it is also worth noting that, even though it seems to have changed from the outside, from the inside, it is still the same as it was before. Its basic remains unchanged." Buddha smiled and said, "It is true. Now I will untie these knots," said Buddha. Then he began to pull 2 ends of ropes away from each other. While doing this, he asked, "What do you think? By pulling them like this, can I untie these knots?" No. Doing this will tighten the knots even more, and would make it more difficult to untie them," replied a disciple. Buddha said, "Okay, now one last question. Tell us what we have to do to untie these knots." Disciple replied, "For this, we have to look closely at these knots, so that we know how they were put on, and then we can try to untie them." Buddha said, "That's what I wanted to hear. I see most people want to solve problems without knowing the reason or real cause of the problem. No one asks me, why do I get angry? They ask how to put an end to their anger. No one asks where the seed of ego came from in me. They ask how to get rid of my ego. Just as rope doesn't change its basic form, even if it's tied in knots, similarly, the seeds of goodness do not perish from within a human being due to some disorder. Just as we can untie the knots of rope, we can also solve human problems. Understand this thing. If there is life, there will be problems too. And if there are problems, then there will be solutions too. It is necessary that we know the cause of any problem. Then the solution will be achieved automatically.